cancer,
diabetes, AIDS, cancer,
Good evening once again, folks, and welcome to Doctor on Call. Last week we started a conversation on children and adolescents' health. We were only able to get through or to do a part, and there's always a lot more, but we spoke mainly on children's health, and this evening we will be talking about adolescents' health. All right, of course, our guest, Dr. Sonia Nixon. Why did I say guest? No, she's not a guest anymore. She is my right hand when it comes to this program, all right? And so she's here with me as always. And as I said, this evening we're going to talk a bit about adolescents' health. And of course, I think it would be well in place at some point for us to talk about the present situation existing in Grenada with the fear of possible community spread of COVID-19. Let's welcome Dr. Nixon. Doc, good evening and welcome again. How are you doing?
I thought I was your right hand.
You are?
Right hand is up.
Well, right and left both.
So being to Grenada, it's nice to be here on this relatively hot night, but I feel like I'm sitting. Where's that town that Moses lived? Noah lived again? And nobody's listening to say that rain is going to come.
Oh.
I'm serious. I'm really concerned about our situation with COVID. But we're going to talk about that after.
Yes, we will.
On the weekend of Carnival, all of a sudden, that's the only story I could think of. Guys, it's going to happen. Just come over on this side. Take care of yourselves. Come over. Right? And the rain started.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope this is not our rainfall. I pray to God that this is not. But guess what? Grenadians come to their senses eventually. So I'm hoping this is where we are standing up and saying, okay, let's get ourselves going. And especially tonight that we're going to talk about our children, regardless of how old they are our children. Okay? And we want to make sure that they remain healthy and they don't die before us above all. There are lots of things that can happen that can make sure that they don't die before us. We talk about our children and having a healthy baby, how important it was for us to have a healthy mother. So you get into that big cycle, right? Sick mothers, substance using mothers, all the rest. Hardly give you a really very healthy baby. You may, but with a lot of stress. Okay? So it's important that we try as much as possible to make sure that our future mothers are healthy young women and our future fathers are healthy young men. So the generations after will fall into that cycle of health. Yeah, and the diseases that we can't avoid, okay? Kids will develop leukemia, and they'll have other illnesses, genetic disorders, congenital illnesses, things that you're born with that you can't fix. And things are going to happen. You're going to have accidents and injuries that happen to young people. That's how their health is affected. But for the most part, we have to make sure and give our children and future generations a fighting chance at being healthy.
Yes, indeed, Doc. Very, very, very important. And so, as I said, we did speak a bit about children health last week, and this week we're going to go into adolescents' health. Doc, when we speak of an adolescent, let's just quickly put it into perspective. Who are we talking about?
Because what has happened is that we've been divided into these groups. So when we're looking at health across the lifespan, we talk about babies, and then we talk about toddlers, and then we talk about children, and then we go into adolescents and young adults and work people and all the rest of it. So the adolescent age is like 10 to 19. Okay? And I think the most significant part of the adolescence is that you kind of gain a lot of independence. So a lot of decision making for how your life goes in those years when you're not very close to your parents, the years when you have a lot of influences by other things, not necessarily your parents, but there's the internet, there is people who hung out with. I went to high school, and most of my friends were in 4th and 5th form when I got to first form.
Right.
Believe it or not, and I went to high school early. Okay, so their influences, and luckily it was a very wholesome group of young women I've met. So influenced my life positively, taught me how to survive in an environment where there were other people who were not necessarily thinking like me. But our children are influenced by much more than they were when they're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because now they're on their own. At 11, 12 years old, they're already going to high school. There's a whole lot more work. You have to learn to manage your time. There's just a whole lot going on. Your influences are different. Hormones start. Sex hormones start perfuse come to your pores, right? And so you start seeing the opposite sex. You start thinking. You start to look different. I saw the girl yesterday who I hadn't seen for probably less than a year, and I saw her. I realized, oh my goodness, you are an adolescent. So coming from a little string bean, very nice, pleasant child, now look like and she's probably 11, but she's changing. You see the changes that are young people. Or a young man who's in my family who's grown, like 8 inches. No, more like 10 inches in the last year, because we were measuring last week. We were measuring last summer, he was barely reaching the tip of my shoulder. And now I almost have to look up to talk to him. So, a lot of changes come, but they come with a cost to them, and a need for parents to still recognize that our young people, the 10 to 19 years old adolescents, still require a lot of support and a lot of supervision and a lot of caring for, and good nutrition and exercise and healthy involvement in relationships and being safe. Keeping them safe from physical and sexual and mental and all kind of abuses that exist out there. Mm-hmm. Because there'll always be some, the bullying, especially the children who are shy and not as exposed and stuff. So there's a lot that parents still have a big role to play in the well-being, the total. We talk about health, physical, emotional, mental, and everything else. All the R's of well-being. So that's the challenge that we're going to face.
Right. So, Doc, we'll put it in the context, and let's start first with before we get to some of the complications, because they are, and I think a lot of times they're overlooked, because we tend to think, well, at that age, the children, they're healthy, they're active, they're all over the place. So let's start with first physical development in adolescence. What are some of the things we see happening, and then we can move on to maybe social agenda and all of these things.
Right. So physical. So you're coming from being a little person, right? And little boys and little girls babies, little boys and little girls as babies, kind of indistinguishable, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's certain social practices that help us to distinguish. We dress the girls in pink, and we dress the boys in blue, and we cut the hair differently, and sometimes, but they dress differently, okay? So that genderization of the children is distinct in that way. But like I said, up to that age, they're still basically cared for by their parents. But by the time you get to 9, 10, you kind of reach into that pubescent area, the time of puberty. Mm-hmm. So different hormones start to come, especially the sexual hormones, right? So the boys get a little stronger. You start to see them. They start, the thing I do, sir? I don't know what to call it.
Your muscles. You're diving. You're diving. You div, and as little fellas, whenever we eat dumplings, right? When your mom make dumpling and peas, and you eat your dumpling, you would div and say, well, let's see who have more muscles, because dumpling give you muscles. So you div and you feel that thing there. The lizard. The lizard. You feel the lizard, and sometimes they would pull it, and if it moves, they say, well, yes, you have lizard, but if you pull it and nothing, well, you need to eat some more dumplings.
Interesting. And the misconception, because dumpling don't give you no muscle, right? Dumpling give you belly fat.
Yes.
Okay. Ask some of us about that, right? But seriously, so you have the boys start looking different, their faces start a little more chiseled. Let's say the average child who's not overweight. Mm-hmm. And even the boys have been overweight, because the muscles are coming in and he burns a little more energy, he might start losing weight. So the face is a little more chiseled, the muscles start looking a little more toned. If they play a lot, you see that the six-pack and they don't want to wear shirt because they have six-pack or half a six-pack, whatever they have, but they want to look different.
They have something.
They're stronger, they're a little more aggressive, they start growing, they start shooting. You see, they start growing up in front of you, right? The voice will eventually start changing and like, what did you say? Nothing, Auntie. It's a time for them. And they tell you, it actually hurts. They feel pain. They can feel their body moving. And they get very awkward because they have all these long bones and long muscles to try and coordinate as before. So those are some of the physical changes. With the girls, what we see they get a little softer. They have a little more fat tissue in places that make them a little more curvaceous. A little more curvy. You look like a girl. No different. The thighs, the breast starts growing, and the growth is at different places. And both gender, distribution of hair in the pubic region and in the armpits, right? So those are some of the things that bring on section. Those are the certain things that of the sexual characteristics or the characteristics that come with the promotion of with the production, of hormones, right? So those are the changes. Okay, and then everybody becomes very self-conscious and all the rest. And parents need to understand that because both boys and girls need a privacy in the homes. Parents need to make sure that we can afford our children a curtain between where the girls sleep and where the boys sleep. So the girls can change, so that people who live in communities where there's public bathrooms, that mothers should accompany their girls down there because they get harassed, and they get harassed not just verbally, sometimes physically. Okay. So you kind of need to ensure that you can preserve your child's sense of wanting to be private and having to cope with her body making changes that she doesn't have any control over. Okay, it's very, very important that we recognize. But what is also important is the nutrition, because we need to ensure that the children are eating properly. Because what you have, like from the age of 9, is that second growth spurt, where all of a sudden body just get big. Well, what is that? All you can't fit in the car seat anymore. Shoes start to grow. You might as well just buy flip-flop, because you buy one shoe, a school shoe, at the beginning of September, December, you need to get the next one. Because everybody's just growing so very quickly. The clothes they grow out of and everything. So you have to prepare for those. You have to be prepared for those kind of changes, and really to support children, because it's a hard time. Those of us who've been through that probably don't remember a lot of it, but it was very difficult. Right? Girls being very conscious of their breasts, and you may have girls who have a lot more breast tissue than their peers, so for that, or have a lot less than their peers. So it's kind of hard, because while we expect everybody to develop at the same rate, it doesn't necessarily happen. But you have to feed your children well, because it's another phase. You want them to have strong muscles, and you want them to have decent skin and all the rest. So it is important. And above all, we still should be putting in place for our children what we want them to eat, what a lifestyle. They must be active. And like I say, you don't have to go run and have Nike. You can play catchers and bat and ball and run up and down and laugh and do those things that make you feel good, right? Play clap-hand games. If a lot of parents don't know clap-hand games, I discovered when I'd gone to a couple PTAs, and a lot of them didn't know, like simple old-time folk song, Miss Mary Young Girl, and those things. People don't know those things anymore. And those are the things how young people engage themselves culturally. Out in the night, in the moonlight, or wherever, they played ring games.
Yes, right? Yes, I recall that.
It made you breathe, and it made you laugh when one person get out and one person don't know the song. Who stole the cook from the cookie jar?
That's right.
But number one out already, and you see everybody laugh. Those are the things we want our children to, because they need to breathe, they need to laugh, they need to release all those endorphins instead of sitting home.
Yes, indeed.
Right? And often sitting home, becoming involved in things that are not necessarily healthy. Exposure to pornography, which is poisonous, which is absolutely psychologically, socially, emotionally toxic, right? not to mention the moral component of it. It can become an addiction. I've seen young men making comments about how much it is to get out of addiction. We have to ensure that we can protect our children. And more than just protecting them by saying, oh, you're not supposed to watch it. Explain to them. Maybe we need to tell parents why it is that this is not a good habit. Why it is that this is not, like it. The good thing about it is that between the age of 10 to 14, you're least likely to die. Mm-hmm. Right? Of all the age groups, the 10 to 14 is least likely to die. Maybe because they have so much thinking about how the body feels, they don't really get involved in all the craziness. But it doesn't mean that they don't die. Okay? That's a group that is least likely to die. In that age, what happens, what is the major cause of death in adolescence is traumatic death, accidents. Why we don't have a lot here, because a lot of adolescents don't have access to cars. Because our driving age is 18, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? In environments where at 16 years old you can get a driver's license, you can guarantee that many, many, many young people die as a result of accidents. Remember, we're young, we still don't have that ability to control our impulses. And that kind of development happens like in the 13, 14, that middle part of the, as you to have menstrual cycles, your voice change, and a lot of other things, your frontal lobe gets more developed. So making decisions, being able to, what you call executive decisions, being able to control your impulses and stuff, and make good choices, right? Happens around that time. Mm-hmm. Incidentally, I think I need to bring it in here because it is at that time that if your child is using cannabis, marijuana, that it is dangerous.
It's very dangerous at that point.
Because it is known that the use of marijuana, people, and I'm not going to talk about medicinal marijuana because it's a totally different thing, people. Medicinal marijuana is not smoked. All right, let's get real. All right? And it's not the same kind of cannabis that we grow everywhere. There's a special form of cannabis that's grown for medicinal marijuana. And maybe that's one of the things that we need to look at way down the road, somewhere down the road.
Yes.
Because I think with the move to legalize...
Well, decriminalize
cannabis, it is really speaking about using medicinal cannabis. So it's not for everybody to walk into and have a spliff and walk into your office so high that you can't.
The problem is whether they understand that.
No, and that's something that we have to share. People need information, okay? And we've seen it happen in a year and a half. People take the hype and run. We like sexy, okay? We like the things that make stories, and we like stories. You see what they put on the internet? Somebody fall off his bike, they look and he dies. Everybody looking to find a picture to put on TikTok and to put everywhere else. Mm-hmm. No, right? We like hype. It's just human to like excitement, something new, right? Remember that it's not new. And I've seen people post a lot of, when I lived in another jurisdiction, where I see people post a lot of, when you have always accidents on the road, and people post people's bodies on the road, and I'd say to them, take this down. Take it down. Just think it was you or your family lying there. What to do? Just take it off, and they will take it down, right? But that's part of the challenge of adolescence. That sense of freedom, that sense of I will live forever. What's wrong with you? Nothing is going to happen to me. So I can jump off a precipice. Oh, there's no water down there. Okay, act first and think later. Mm-hmm. Right? We see how our boys take chances. They take a lot more risky. They take more risk than the girls. It is claimed that it's the male hormone that make them do all these things. All right. So this is a time that children really need their parents to guide them, to temper them, to not say no to everything, but at the same time to not say yes to everything. You don't have to go to every party. Well, you're not supposed to go to any party now anyway. But you don't have to do everything. You don't have to buy all the clothes. You don't have to buy all the makeup. You don't have to do all your hair. You don't have to do everything. Figure out, why am I doing this? Right? And then figure out, why am I not eating healthy foods? I need to make myself healthy. If our girls knew that being good mothers started from they were little girls, maybe they think differently. Because every little girl most little girls thinks of being a parent. If our boys knew the same thing, they probably behave differently, but it's a question of telling people and helping to share information.
So, Doc, let's take the break now, and then when we come back, I want us to look at a little bit of the social development, touch a bit on gender differences and gender identity, and then we would look at some of the complications, because we have to briefly look at things like peer pressure and all of these things. They happen during that period, and they do have some influence on our adolescents. So we take the break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere.
You're already ill and have no time or energy to walk every which way to access your healthcare needs. So come to Spice Isle Imaging on the Carenage for a one-spot stop for all your health service needs. See our in-house doctor and get your meds from the pharmacy right on location. Digital X-ray, MRI, CT scans, mammography, ultrasound and laboratory services are also available. So for that moment when life makes demands on you, you can make demands on us. Visit us at Spice Isle Imaging, Carenage, St. George's.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
We support you at every stage of your life.
For business,
for your education,
for your financial freedom,
for that new ride.
Upgrade your life with the Communal. Contact us today.
Introducing Color by Seasons. 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 Color by Seasons.
Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Sonatogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
that's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio, The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
GBN, in association with the Grenada Development Bank and the Agricultural Shop, presents the GBN Exclusive, Taking Agriculture Forward, a two-part, 2-hour forum on August 11th and 18th from 8 p.m. on GBN Television 7 and 11, K105 FM, and on all GBN's social media platforms. This forum will discuss primary agriculture and opportunities, agricultural extension and support, challenges facing the sector, and policies and food system sustainability. Join us on August 11th and 18th as we speak to the experts on taking agriculture forward.
Welcome back. It's Doctor and Call this evening. Just for the benefit of those who've just joined us, we're discussing adolescent health. Dr. Sonia Nixon with us this evening. Doc, I want to just quickly a little bit on the social aspect of adolescence. And there was a psychologist many years ago, a fellow called Erik Erikson, who said that appropriate social development in adolescence requires solving a major challenge, and that's the ego identity versus the role diffusion. And he believed that to resolve that crisis, adolescents had to form the ego identity, a strong sense of who they are and what they stand for. All right? And all of that, when you correlate that with things like peer pressure, and so it can create problems for the adolescent if they cannot deal with it. Let's just talk briefly a bit about that.
So this is a very good point, because for you to make a statement like that, you have to live in a very homogeneous society. You know, a society that everybody have the same access to everything. Okay, for it to work out perfectly. So we're 110,000 people, 112,000 when we're not for it, okay? The truth is, we have a lot of influences that determine how adolescents make decisions. One of our biggest factors is religion. Right? We are a very religious country. Religion does influence a lot of the decision. We still have our class identity, whether or not you want to believe it. There's some children who would go to that nice school or the other school that is not considered nice. right? There's some children, what is your family? What does your mother make? What does your father do? And kids will say, what does your daddy do? Where your father work? Okay? So there are lots of stuff. There are things that are going to decide how a child envisages himself, what image he has of himself based on his earlier childhood. Was he abused? Was he constantly put down? Or was he supported? And even if he wasn't put down, were there boundaries established for him so he could understand? Was he encouraged to think independently within boundaries, understanding? Was there guidance given to that child? So for those who have little children, we have to start considering that, because yes, what I think of myself, and adolescents don't have kind of boundaries, right? Because they know everything, they hold the world in their hands and the future of the world, right? But we have to guide them into be able to make those informed decisions for themselves. Okay? So yes, while we expect the ego development to guide the way children do, we also, as parents and older parts of the population, have to guide them very, very cautiously, without creating a sense of guilt and without putting barriers to healthy social development.
Mm-hmm.
Our children still face a lot of challenges within that context. They face issues like depression. Do we say the child is lazy? Because we tend to say that, right? Because a child is not doing what you want, we might say that the child is lazy. When in fact, the child is struggling severely with his own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or might be having deeper problems than just depression. The child might have deep mental illness, like severe mental illness, like depression, severe depression, what we call morbid depression, that profound depression with a child, or might be on that bipolar spectrum where he might be manifesting depression, but it's not just a pure depression. He's on the bipolar spectrum. It could be one way or the other. Children with the brain tumors might behave differently. Children with diseases like schizophrenia,
mm-hmm.
right? Will have different challenges. And, how the thought is developed, what their perception of the world is like. Okay, those are the things. How do they get accepted in society? So all of us went to school and somebody was an outlier, right? The way out there, they're just different from all of us. And whether we call them the nerd, or we call them the stupidity, or we call them whatever we would call them, which is not a good thing to do, they were there. When we were peers, when we are peers as children, do we think alike? I look at the children, for example, who grew up in my community, right? And I grew up in a very agrarian community, but I went to school in the city. So I had different influences.
Mm-hmm.
I worked away from home, and we went to school in St. George's. We went to primary school, but we went to nice primary school, and you had a lot more exposure. And you had principals who really encouraged their children to be exposed
mm-hmm.
to the world. So my psychological development was totally different. And if I look at my brothers, because they hung with the guys more, we didn't have a lot of girls in my age group, in my community when I was growing up. But if you look at the boys, they did not get as far as my brothers did because of that influence. Okay? They still, a lot of them having different exposure could have made them have a different life. But they didn't. All right? And it turned out that there were people who had mental illness. Mental illness that eventually, or mental illness, not necessarily schizophrenia and depression, but, probably depression that led them to alcohol
mm-hmm.
as a way out once they had access. Okay? And the kids who probably had learning challenges were left behind, right? There were children who were bullied, which is a big problem we have today. When you bully somebody and you keep putting them down, you don't only make them live in fear, you make them afraid to be who they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? regardless of what is the root, what is the origin of the bullying. Why do you bully a child? Often it's a child who has a lot of potential or who has some weakness, like a child who might be slow, or might have cocky eye, or, you understand? Mm-hmm. Or it might be the fat child, right? But we take advantage and tell children, and often it's our peers, but sometimes we hear our parents talk about it, and they influence how we as adolescents may think. And so parents have to be very cautious and teach their children to be tolerant. I'm not saying tolerant to wrong thing, but teach their children to tolerant to objectivity, things that you can't change, right? Teach their children to understand what is right and what is wrong. My mother know that we used to bully some children in school. No, I hate it. But can't make up. No, and get the money from them and stuff, right? And the other social things are early initiation of sexual activity. I tell everybody, sex is for big people, okay? I don't mean big people in numbers and in age. I mean big people who are fully developmentally. Because we see...
just before you go to that, because I was going to come to that, but just before we go, I think that would fit in well. Could we just look at the issue of gender differences? Because I think that would lead us very well into the whole issue of sexual behavior in adolescence.
So you can't really take one of them, because I can start to talk about drugs, which would probably lead into sexual behavior.
Right.
So it is claimed that your gender identity is confirmed in that early adolescent stage.
Yeah.
How are you going to?
But when does it start? When does it start?
Early in life.
But 3 years, 4 years, thereabout.
I guess it starts with the unspoken things.
Yeah.
Because you're putting your boy in a pink shirt. You know?
Yes.
And stop like a girl. Right? Stop crying. You're just like your sister. Cry every time. Big boy like you. Come out to the house. Go and play. Right? No, not washing. Boy, you're not washing your ways inside there. Make your sister come. Mary, come and wash the plate. And he's eating the plate. And he learns that and I can't do that. And your father comes home and he insists that your mother, who is sick or probably just had a baby, get up and cook dinner, and he has them 2 long hands and probably can cook better than her. So a lot of unspoken example.
Right.
Tell women, there are a lot of us women who are single, okay? We've had a relationship with a partner that went on, but we have a child or 2. If you have a boy, find your cousin who can be example. Find your co-worker, people you can trust to be examples to your boy. We don't know, girls don't know how to bring up boys, okay? We don't have no male hormone. We don't understand all of their needs, right? Men have to be there for their boys, especially when it comes to sex and sexuality, and of course gender identity, okay? And to understand that there are people who are not going to show totally male or female. That's just how the world is, shades of gray. Mm-hmm. Right? And to understand, to have open a dialogue with your child. And there are lots of people who are homosexual in thought. A gay person is already engaged in sexual activity with a same-sex partner. Who was homosexual in thought because somebody else taught them otherwise. We've seen a lot of boys who grew up with their grandmothers, but their grandmothers took care of them and protected them, and they never went outside. They can't go and play cricket, and they can't play football, and you can't bust it toe and all that, right? And they just don't get that thing. Even when the male hormones come on, they already don't know how to use it. They're even more confused, right? So we need people of a certain gender to be able to be exemplary, to help to guide, and to help to understand when somebody's probably wired differently, because that does happen. Okay?
Right. So let's now move to the big thing. Of course, problems during adolescence. The whole issue of the sexual behavior and all of the things that are involved. Because I think that during that period is when it starts to really show up itself.
Because you have those hormones that tell you, hey, you're pretty, you look good, and you feel sexy. You feel like you want to, you want to participate in an activity. A guy touching you, you get goose pimple. A boy touching you in school and you're 7 years old, boy, don't touch me. Take your hand off me. Right? That same boy touches you when you're 14 and is like, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we're made. We were made like that. And again, I'm bringing parents because we have to teach our children that this is going to happen. Right? And how you're going to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw with a group of boys. I have a group of boys who pass and check me, Form 1s. And we started to talk because everybody boys start change on me in Form 1, okay? And I'm like, So, talk about the girlfriends. And everybody head went south. I said, let me tell you something. There's some nice little convent girl, because I go PDC, right? There's some nice little convent girl up there. There's nothing wrong with liking them. That's just life.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we brought up. We're attracted one gender to the other, one person to another. Okay? But there's certain rules, and I read all the rules of respect, the rules of you really kind of need to know the opposite sex, especially when you go to a single gender school, and to be able to have healthy relationships. That does not include sex. Because I said to them, you guys are not ready for that. Sex is for big people. And like I said, not all people, older people by now. Sex for people who understand what that activity is. And we're not even going to discuss that here tonight. Okay? Because that is a whole...
Yeah, that's a program in itself, yes. Mm-hmm.
2 programs, trust me. But sex is intercourse is an activity. Healthy intercourse is an activity for adults. Right? And I'm not keeping anything for you. Because most of the children, most of the young people, I've spoken to several young girls who have been sexually active, who tell you, the moment they did it, they regretted.
Mm-hmm.
The moment they got involved, they regretted getting involved in sexual, because it's like you've lost something, but you don't lose it for any meaning. Because your parents tell you need to do this. Why would 15-year-olds come to my office and tell me they want to know they can have baby? Why would 15-year-olds want to know if they can have a baby? Because there's peer pressure saying to you, if you don't do it, you're a mule. I don't know if that's what they call them in Grenada. If you can have a baby, you're a mule. Well,
I've heard that already. Yeah.
If you can't have a baby, what? For 15 years, so much be worrying about, boy, I'm not washing no dishes tonight. Mommy and she I go and speak on the internet with my girlfriends, right? I'm trying to figure out what we're wearing on Saturday when we go to class. That's what 15-year-olds would like should be doing, not thinking about family life. But we have to have proper guidance, right? And often there's a strong person who's there who can guide your thoughts. So you have to decide what kind of leader as a parent your adolescent child is, or how they deal in a group when it comes to strong leaderships. Because there's always one strong person among them, or less weak, right? And your children have to learn to understand how not to succumb to peer pressure, because it can be dangerous as becoming pregnant. And not just becoming pregnant, if you become pregnant, it means that you're having sexual intercourse that's not protected. And if you have sexual intercourse that's not protected, there are a lot of other things related to that.
Definitely.
Right? Like getting sexually transmitted diseases, illness, right? Including HIV, which can be fatal. Right? And we've seen the ends of the spectrum, older people and younger people getting HIV. We haven't spoken about HIV in a long time, but it exists. It's still there. We're still there. Despite all that we've talked about, wear a condom, stick to one faithful partner, or abstain. We haven't pushed much for abstinence because we think abstinence can happen. Abstinence can happen if you teach young people how to be responsible for themselves, because parents still want to dictate. I know that they shouldn't, but they shouldn't so much. It must be a conversation where you have to get your child to a point where he can learn to make decisions. So when rain falling, he doesn't walk in the rain and mash up in little plastic paper shoes. Okay? He doesn't walk downtown and walk into the drains. You do not run in the drains. All right? When a car comes, you come onto the road. Right? You can't walk on the road with your AirPods in your ear. You shouldn't wear AirPods anyway, because everybody's going to be deaf in the next 20 years. Right? But we have to guide our children as independent as they are. And yes, they're out there making decisions, but they're sometimes making wrong decisions because they don't know how to choose. Substance use. Well, you know our favorite substance? Rum. Give me alcohol anyhow. And even though the laws protect our Grenadian young people up to the age of 18, they still drink. We talked about that the other day, right? Because your grandmother must give you sorrel before you could do that. Put a little sorrel on your tongue with your first Christmas. And we make sorrel with rum. Most of us do. All right? And we do it, and we give our children alcohol innocently, forgetting that what if my family, and sometimes you know that your family have a propensity, right, to alcoholism, right? They're encoded. We give our children alcohol way too early. Or sometimes we turn our eyes, you know, like a partner, and next thing you know, your 12-year-old turn put a beer in his hand. Excuse me? Right? So our parents have to understand that we have other substances, cannabis, and we were speaking about cannabis. Did we speak on this outside? The fact that marijuana is still quite accessible, but if you are smoking at, like I said, around that 13, 14, when your brain is developing, that is when we see how impaired your decision-making capacity can become. Also, we know that when younger people smoke marijuana and they're at risk for developing schizophrenia in particular, that really ugly part of mental illness, the most difficult part of mental illness, because your thoughts become so schizophrenia is a disease mostly of thought.
All over the place.
Your thought so warped, right? So damaged. Your whole perception of everything, what you see doesn't really exist in the real world or in the other people's world, right? And we know that smoking weed can precipitate the appearance of schizophrenia. The earlier a child develops schizophrenia, the more likely he is to be non-functional. And the boys tend to develop schizophrenia earlier than the girls. Girls might happen a little after 20, but in the boys, usually by 15, 16, definitely by 18, 19, they've already had a first break of the disease. So we want to make sure that we can protect our boys. And if it's going to happen, at least we can see, okay? And but also that use of other substances, whatever else is there, that how it impairs, it keeps the potential for being productive people. Because a young man who starts using drugs early, already heading down the path, okay? They don't go to school. They do all the truant behavior, which is one of the big psychological problems. They don't go to school, or they go to school to make up time legally, but they don't come out with anything that will make them, beneficial to themselves and society. Obesity, which is a big word of today. If you have an obese child, you're likely to have an obese adolescent. The nutrition of adolescents, the nutritional choices they make are not good, because most of marketing, right, is centered for them. Look, I'm going to tell you something. I saw something on TV a week and a half ago, that startled me. There was a competition by one of our agencies, and for primary school children, and the winners. I'll send you that picture, because the winners, when you saw the gifts, they were sugar-sweetened beverages. No. The Minister of Health asked last year, February or January, right, that we do not give sugar-sweetened beverages to children in school. And truthfully, we shouldn't be giving. Yet the prizes these kids get were these kaleidoscope of drinks that were basically water, a flavor, and sugar. Right? And while a parent may be happy that the child wins, I imagine there were other gifts they could have given. Okay? And while there were probably gifts from companies here to give them, it almost looked vulgar in a situation where we're trying to prevent childhood obesity, where we see the constant rise, where we have seen, especially during this period of COVID-19, that childhood obesity has skyrocketed because children have just been home. Right? There's no playtime at school, there's no walking to school, even walking to the bus stop, there's no activity. And then mommy buys fast food because they're home and they're hungry all the time. And that's understood, but they're bad choices. Okay? It's popcorn and and corn curls and eat some cereal with milk and fling a lot of sugar on it, even though the cereal already comes too much sugar, right? And making macaroni and cheese and it's stuff that are really not good for them. And because they're a little cheaper. But the bottom line is that obesity is a big challenge. But it also is a big challenge for our children socially because they're not accepted when they're overweight. So that can create more problem, lead to depression, lead to using drugs and all the rest of it.
But there's the other side to that. Those and let me put it locally and Grenadian. What about some of those young girls who playing sweet, and as far as they're concerned, no, they're already far from the kitchen, but they want to lose weight? Anorexia.
I don't quite understand.
So they think that the issue of anorexia, right?
Oh, the other.
Yeah, the other side of it. So you're already far from the kitchen, meaning that you have no flesh on your bone, but you want to lose weight. Yes, and so they avoid eating, or they, and it's a health concern.
I had an adolescent young lady, a young girl, and she was going to high school in my other jurisdiction, who decided she was fat. So if you turn on one side, you can't see, and like I saw a joke last night that
that's exactly the point.
Nobody, okay? Now, very slim child, the perfect, and her mother started getting concerned because she would not eat. That child, you know, look at Chubby, the little Chubby drink. She did that, and a pack of, remember the original corn curls, the holiday food ones, that size. That was all the meal she ate. So she had her Chubby, and she sucked on it all day long. One sip, and she makes sure that all the flavor is erased from her mouth every 10 or 20 minutes. One sip, and she put one cheese curl in her mouth. And that was a meal. And she started losing weight. And mother got concerned when her period stopped, because it is going to stop the essential functions, right? It's going to stop the essential functions of the body. Her period went away. And as happened in people with anorexia. And she came, and I said to her, what's happening? Well, I don't want to get fat. I said, and I understand that, but I help you ways to do this. So let's talk about it. So here's what we're going to do, because I understand fully that you don't want to get fat, but I don't think you're going to get fat if you eat this way, if you're active. And she comes from a family where they're good average weight. It's not like everybody fat, right? And I said to her, I'm giving you 6 weeks to put on 5 pounds. I need you to come back to me. Don't see her in 6 weeks. But that's why I like 10 weeks. And if you haven't put on any weight, I'm sending you up to the hospital because you're having severe mental challenges. So I'm in a pharmacy one day, those big pharmacies with a store inside. And I said, and her mother says, hi, Dr. Nixon. I said, hey, where's my girl? Didn't recognize her. She put on like 10 pounds. But that was an easier case. But what had happened? She started hanging with a set of girls who were doing the same thing. Everybody wants to keep slim.
Okay.
So the peer pressure to stay skinny, I said to her, soon your brain is going to stop working because it's no longer an essential organ. You're not going to be learning. So that's one of the things. First, have to identify when the children have those problems. Children who closet eat. You can't figure out why the child getting fat. Go look under the bed and so much pack of biscuit paper there. Right? Or in the closet, in the drawer where she has her underwear. It's usually a private place for parents. So we have to understand our children. And I think what's most important is to understand you have to maintain dialogue, not bullying them. Because sometimes parents bully their children without having a relationship of conversation. Forgetting that we went through all of those challenges and didn't know how to explain it. All right? Social media, the big social problem. Addictive, I can tell you. Very addictive. We have to teach our children the positive value of social media. And as everything is that it must be measured and balanced. Okay? I think parents will decide when their children going to get on social media. I don't think little children should be on social media. There are too many pirates out there, piranhas out there, trying to get them and just gobble them up. right? And trying to make your children just make zombies of them, basically. Teach them things that they don't need to know, that they don't know how to process, get them involved in all kind of stuff. And finally, come on, we live in a society that doesn't happen here in Grenada yet, but they track children and they go and they take people's children away. Right? So, and of course, trafficking, human trafficking, is not yet much of a problem, but it's not far from our doors.
Yeah.
Every time I see a young girl disappear here, I get scared. Where has she gone? So we have to be able, your children are not supposed to have no locked phone in your house. Your children are not supposed to have a locked phone in your house or a locked computer. That is something you should have access to.
Right. Indeed.
Okay? Parents need to be responsible, because guess what? If a child gets into a problem, sometimes you'll be the one getting into the problem. Looking at violent movies, there's a lot of violence, especially in a lot of the games our kids play, and a lot of the movies they watch. Well, we watch Tom and Jerry, but the games takes away a lot of the aesthetics of the world. The characters are very ugly. The characters are very combative. There's a lot of jealousy and enmity and stuff. And those are characteristics that your children should not grow up thinking, right? There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of negative things. And those are characteristics. So parents need to know what their children are talking. And of course, how we talk to our children is important. Are we going to put them down? We're going to make them feel that I'm the boss? Yeah, you're the boss, but let's talk this. Let's collaborate on my growing up, because I really want you to help. I want you to feed me well, and I want you to make sure that I have a social life. And men, I'm asking our men in particular, take your daughters out. Let them know how they should be treated. Okay? Let them know how they need to be treated, so that they can know what to expect when it comes within their field. And helping our children with the academics. And guess what? It's not only academics, parents. There are children who are good with their hands, right? Children who are very good at their hands. There are children who learn later. I have friends who go into high school, had all the challenges, but they've done well. They learned later in life. And we have to look at that. And parents have to figure out, if they can't manage, try and figure out, how can I help my child? Okay? The responsibilities, I don't see why our children must be the ones out there raising funds for you to run your household. That's parental responsibility. They shouldn't be out there working. A child wants to have a job because he wants to learn his time management and learn a skill, be in an environment where what he does, what he wants to do, he gets the exposure. That's fine. He wants to earn his pocket money. That's okay. But children should not be out there working to maintain your household. And your children should not.
I totally agree.
And your adolescent children are not supposed to be managing your little children. Sorry. I'm not saying they're not supposed to have babysitter at times, but that's not their responsibility. That is not their responsibility. They're still children, and they need somebody to look after them. So you want to go to a party, you leave the 4-year-old and the 3-year-old with a 12-year-old.
That's a recipe for disaster. Doc, let's just take a final break quickly, and we're going to come right back and finish off for this evening. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting from the top of Observatory Road, St. George's, Grenada. This is...
Folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program, hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV, and all their social media platforms. The only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all genres of music. So it's Green's Music to the World on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN with the music icon himself, Mr. Eugene Gittens. See you then.
What does it take to be an amazing woman? Lots of me time. Amazing women are classy, fancy, and a little sassy. It's the drink for me. Cheers! Sometimes you've got to show them who's boss. Alpha male? Nah, alpha females are more amazing. Cheers to securing the bag. We make time for ourselves, for work, friends, and we certainly make time for passion. We're simply amazing. Amazing cream liqueur for the amazing woman in you.
Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Sonatrogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
No, that's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Hey, folks.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course. Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio. The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Welcome back. It's Doctrine Call, and we into the final leg of our program. And folks, our telephone line is open, so you can give us a call. The number is 435-2041. We'll take your questions and your contribution at this point. The number again, 435-2041. Doc, I left this one, especially for last because it's very, very important, and the tendencies seem to be increasing. The issue of suicide and attempted suicide among adolescents.
So we know that the highest incidence of suicide, more suicide occurs in men.
Yes.
We know most suicide also occur between 17 to 24 or 29, that kind of age group. And that is part of adolescence. We have seen younger people, but the majority occurs that time. In environments where you have a lot of copycat, where one person does it and says, oh, that person, oh, that's how easy it is, I'm going to try it. We know that there are internet sites that tell our children, hey, you can kill yourself, and they go seeking it, right? And that is why it is important to be able to get into our children's social media accounts to see what it is they're following, whether it is demon serving groups, right? Whether it is somebody trying to groom them into having intercourse, whether it is those way out groups like suicide groups and gangs and all the rest of it, right? That our children are. Depression, and we spoke about that, that's the first thing we spoke of, right? Depression is usually the principal risk factor for suicide. So we have to be able to identify when our children are having problems with depression. We've seen, for example, however, in the US, where children who are bullied and probably develop depression anyway tend to die by suicide. So we have to make sure, and it is very sad because suicide is preventable, but we have to recognize the risks. So what are those risks? A child who is prone, okay? Some people have the propensity to depression, but a child who's under pressure and all those. But they show things. They show withdrawal. They show not functioning well in school, lack of attention, lack of interest in doing things that, especially doing the things that they like. So if you have your 14-year-old that you can't get off the computer, or you can't get him to stop playing video games, and all of a sudden on his own he stops. He might be drinking, he might be smoking, doing weed, but he stops. Or because you say to him, look, Michael, you have to stop 1 hour a day on the internet because your schoolwork is from 1 hour a day. That's it, right? He doesn't like it. He might get withdrawn, or he may be bullied at school, and they call him fat boy and not gonna get girl and all the rest of it, right? So Michael has challenges. He gets depressed to the point where he gets withdrawal, right? And he gets withdrawn. Sorry, no longer hanging out with the guys. Girlfriend's not calling him, or not answering the cell phone. He don't even charge the cell phone. He all by himself. Depression, okay? But you might find him asking or seeking to know peeking around which rafter might be good, have a piece of rope tied on their bed. Or in other countries, children take pills, so you have to make sure that your medications, especially your medications, you have to be aware, because they do. Okay? And if a child has depression, guess what? You take him to get some mental health intervention. People don't like to go to Monge, but guess what? Guys, Monge is a mental hospital. And that's where the expertise is. And I've spoken to quite a few people in Grenada who say there are challenges. We know there are challenges, services, water, infrastructure and stuff. But it's a good thing I went there. That's where the professionals for mental health challenges are. They have a good I know they have a good childhood program, so all children can be looked at. Right? So those are the things. But before you go away from that, you also need to make sure that your children don't have a means. In other words, am I going to shoot myself? So if I've gun, hide a gun. Make sure your gun should always be safe. See what else? Your pills. Is he hiding? You see a piece of rope that you had in your shed that you can't find anymore. Mary the goat walking up and down because she don't have a rope tied around her neck. Whatever it is. So you figure it out, and you follow a child. It's important. People who have suicidal intentions have to be monitored 24 hours a day. That's the bottom line. All right. So suicide is one of our big problems. Is there a correlation between children who frequently run away from home and suicidal thoughts? I don't know. I can't answer that in that way. But that is another point. We spoke about it a little while ago. Children run away from home. Often children run away from home, they want no discipline. But sometimes children who run away from home have mental illness. Their brain is telling them, go do this, go do that, go do that. Or sometimes they're already influenced and groomed by people or their adults who want to use them for a sexual end. So we have to be aware. Find your child. And maybe when your mother catches you, she wants to beat you, but Mary was how much days Mary was looking for Jesus in the temple and she couldn't find him? She looked back, not in a gang, going back to Nazareth. The truth is, it is easy for parents to become very angry, but it's probably more beneficial for you to understand why your child ran away from home. But like I said, sometimes mental illness, especially children who you say they're crazy and they can't keep quiet and they're so irritable, right? Sometimes a lot of these kids have mental illnesses that we However, before we go, I want to talk 2 minutes about infectious disease. To get adolescent, you have to pass through childhood. Our children are alive today because of a seriously managed and successful vaccine program. I think we talked about a few weeks ago. It is important that we stick to the program in order for our children to survive. And now we're seeing that there are probably 100,000 children in the US who have had coronavirus. And that's unfair because I was reading an article today that's in 2019, they're saying the risk of children developing coronavirus is very small. But maybe because coronavirus was not as widespread as it is today, because it's so much more widespread. Again, I wept internally when I saw the amount of our children in the crowds of Carnival Monday and Tuesday. A crowd that was unmasked, a crowd that was unvaccinated, and a crowd that was irresponsible. Okay? And whatever the motive for having those encounters, I hope we don't pay very dearly. I hope we do not pay very dearly. In the US, they have started vaccinating their children using the Pfizer vaccine, okay? Because it's the one that has been proven to work for children. Is it going to be put on our, our vaccine program? I don't know. The EPI, the Extended Program of Immunization, I don't know. Would we need to vaccinate our children? Very likely, because they're another 1/5 of the population, right? They have mild symptoms. You don't know who's not going to have mild symptoms. We had measles, but a lot of us had pneumonias as a result of measles and probably have less healthy lungs and other stuff. And it comes to the other point I want to make about us understanding. And I'm going to ask everybody, and not because the minister said it or whoever said it today, Dr. Sean Charles. I'm going to ask, because I've been asking this, I'm going to ask everybody in Grenada to be responsible for yourself in the face of coronavirus. I've seen people today post on social media that this thing don't exist.
Yes.
And I've seen it today, I read it today, but I tell you what, I often wonder why people say these things. Are we so far back in denial? Because we've been speaking about coronavirus from February with the intensity we are now, last year. So it's now 12 and 6, 18 months, a year and a half. You could have had 2 babies, one behind the other. Okay? And I want people to ask questions again. I want people to, and I'm willing to share the information I have. I want people to ask questions because I think a lot of the decision to not take a vaccine is based on the fact that people do not understand what this virus is. Then you have the Delta variant, which is, if we had controlled coronavirus last year, we would not have Delta variant because it would not have been there. A virus cannot exist out of in the case of this coronavirus,
needs human beings.
It cannot exist outside of a human body. So if I have it and I don't know, and I'm out there playing jab or hanging out in a party or just chilling by the beach and all the rest of it with you, I'm likely to give you. I may not get sick, right? And I may not get sick, but I'm likely to give it to you, who just may be prone to becoming very ill as a result of having come in contact. And so again, I'm going to go into the box of tools. 1, make sure that nutritionally you're well. You can go online, they tell you zinc and your vitamin C and your magnesium and all the stuff, right? And exercise and eat well. Eat well. But that is just part of what we've been talking about all along, people keeping healthy meals. So having a pot of oil with a lot of dumpling and thing and a half an ounce of calorie is not going to cut it. You're going to have to extend how much greens you eat and all the rest of it. Healthy eating is very important. Exercise is very important. Not that I can say much about that, but the bottom line is that exercise and healthy eating is very important as a fun. But it's not all. It's a whole box of things you need. Okay? So you need to, if you have diseases, chronic diseases, to make sure your disease is under control. Okay? If you're smoking, you have to stop smoke. If you're drinking, you have to stop drinking. Because those things do bother your immune system. Okay? Like we say all the time, 50% of the people who smoke will die from diseases related to smoking. Half of you. Oh, well, I don't smoke, so I can say half of you. Half of those who smoke. So you have to take out the underlying disease. But you also need to know that if I go close to John and he has coronavirus, he's likely to give me, especially if he's not wearing a mask. I'm vaccinated, you're vaccinated, but we wear masks in public. And like I said, I'm in my house. I can talk. It's just me and my dog. I can not wear my mask, right? But I don't want to give anybody coronavirus because I'm vaccinated doesn't mean I'm not going to have coronavirus in my body or my breath. If I inhale it, it's there. I don't want to give it to you, and you shouldn't want to give it to me either. No, thank you. Okay. And we don't want to give it to those who are most vulnerable.
And that's such an important point, because yesterday I was having a short discussion with someone, and they're saying to me, all right, so you're totally vaxxed, I am not. What threat do I pose to you if I pass COVID-19 to you? And I'm saying, look, maybe not directly, but me being vaccinated can now pass it on to someone else who is unvaccinated, and there lies the problem. And we need to look at it in detail.
And I tell them, I don't want to find out what threat to pass you pose, okay? We don't even want to go there. We want to do the things that are correct. We're not running games in here. And then, of course, we talked about social distancing. Cover your face. I don't want no chin. You don't need a chin guard. No air goes into your chin. The coronavirus is transmitted through the air that we breathe and the water droplets. That's where it goes into your respiratory system and breaks into the mucous membranes and gets into your lungs, or gets straight into your lungs. And that's where the disease comes from. That's where the virus wants to go. That's where it wants to go and pull it. That's where it wants to be. Just as how you get fungus in your toes because your toes wet and you probably have diabetes, right? And it's warm, it goes there. If your skin is dry and clean, you're not going to get a fungus on your skin if you don't have conditions for it. This virus loves your respiratory tract. Mm-hmm. That's why we ask you, filter it as much as you can. They're asking when you travel now to wear 2 masks, your usual surgical mask and a close-fitting N95 or a cloth mask because of the Delta virus. Okay? So I'm going to ask people, do yourself a favor. Everybody, just do yourself a favor. And then, of course, keep it social distance. Wash your hands. Why do you want to wash your hands? Because the outer coat of the virus is made up of fat. Mm-hmm. You want to break down that fat because the receptors, the things that they use to seek and attach themselves to your respiratory tract are on these tentacles. Those are the things that you see, which are just graphics, but that's receptors. If they're not there, it cannot attach to your system.
That's right.
And of course, people trust me. I saw a graphic yesterday about a city in the U.S. Don't remember where it was, where they had a surge in coronavirus. They had 600 and a little bit of cases, right? 590 something people were so like 606 cases, right? 591 of them were unvaccinated, and 17 of them were vaccinated. Mm-hmm. 17, right? But I don't think that any of the 17 people were in hospital.
There we go.
So I'm going to reconsider protecting you. Mm-hmm. We've heard so many things and we forget what we heard, and we made a decision on very bad information. There are people who are evil and don't care. Okay? And they don't care. Nobody has said that any vaccine gives you 100% protection. No one has said so. What it does is increase your potential for not dying. Mm-hmm. For not dying. or the person who may get it from you. Like I said, like you say, I may not have no symptoms, right? But you give it to somebody who has that weakness in their immune system, who has that great risk of developing respiratory illnesses. And when that virus gets inside the body, just pop, and it goes and it gives them strokes, as we see in our young people, in the 40s, in the people in the 40s and early 50s, kill off their kidneys, because they recognize early in the game in New York that people who had coronavirus, when started having kidney failure, and when they tried to diagnose them, the machine, the bloods that they were giving them, you know, how you take your blood out and clean it and pass it back, couldn't go to because the blood was so thick. It causes problem. So it gets thicker than it really should be, right? People who have had strokes, like I said, have had heart attacks, who have had, they said, a researcher speaker was talking about increase in diabetes, right? In people who have had coronavirus. You know why? Just as how the virus attacks your liver and your lung and your kidney and it attacks your pancreas. Your pancreas produces insulin that is responsible for controlling your blood sugar. You don't have good insulin. If you kill off the pancreas or make it sick, it can't produce insulin or good quality insulin, and then you will develop diabetes. So guess what? I'm just asking people, just give yourself a chance to live, especially our young people. Especially tonight we talk about youth health. Parents, encourage your young people to live responsibly. And once you have the age for your vaccine, make a decision to give yourself a fighting chance, because that is what it really is.
And Doc, you know, I don't think we could have ended on a better note. There is nothing more I can add to what you just said, other than to continue to encourage our people to get vaccinated and to continue following all the protocols. Washing your hands, sanitizing, wearing your facial mask in public, and protect yourself. You know what I say? I am fully vaccinated, but I still don't want to catch coronavirus. I want to be free from that.
And I told you last week, there was a lady in a meeting with me, and I was leading the meeting. She was sitting probably like 12 feet away from me, and she had to talk to someone. She took her mask off, and I was starting back the session, and I asked her to put her mask on because I don't want to give her anything I have. I honestly don't. I don't feel that kind of kind these days. I'm not sharing anything with you, you know. And I'm telling people, if you have doubts, just call me. Just call. Don't be afraid to call, because I really want to help you to get through the doubt of coronavirus.
No, it's important. And the other thing that we need to pay attention to, whether or not we have the capacity here in Grenada to deal with a major outbreak. We don't.
So Dominica's government locked down their country last week, right? They had their first death today. And this is devastating. Remember when a gentleman died, the one who came from New York, and he died from corona, how sad the nation became?
Yes.
I don't want people to panic. We're not going to panic, right? But we're going to think that Noah is saying, hey, the ark is being built. I want people to jump on the ark. Come on the ark. Come and protect yourself. Love yourself enough. So it might not rain enough, but just in case.
But you'll be protected. Our telephone is going dark. Let's take this one. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, caller.
Good evening, Doc. Excellent program. I must congratulate you on what you have expounded upon. I'm fully vaccinated, but my question is, how essential is the last booster dose for adolescents? Thank you.
Adolescent?
Thank you, caller. Yeah.
I kind of don't know. So we know that the first dose of the vaccines that have already been prepared, right, is not fully, it doesn't give you full coverage.
That's the first dose, yes.
Of immunity. And I really wish I could talk about herd immunity here, because we're not going to have herd immunity for a long time. And but let me finish this first. So, given a booster is like the other vaccines. So if you get your what they give you in the beginning when you're born, DPT and all the other stuff, they give you one, and then They give the baby 1, 4 months, and 6 months. I think that's how they do it in the beginning. I don't remember, okay? They give you so to ensure that your body is able to respond efficiently, right? Should you come in the presence of the whatever that offending the organism is, right? So that is why you give a booster. And I can tetanus. You get your last tetanus shot at 4. They tell you when you're going to go into high school, you get a booster, and if you take a booster every time, just to ensure that your immune system still recognizes and is able to deal with the whole thing. I want to talk quickly about herd immunity. Herd immunity means that enough of us have immunity that the chances of a whatever it is, an organism, an infectious organism, affecting us. So let's say, I'm sorry about the dog, there's somebody outside. Let's say, I'm gonna go, I like measles, because we got some herd immunity with measles at one time. So if you vaccinate 60% of the population, right? It means, let's say population is 10 people or 100 people. You vaccinate 60, right? And 40 doesn't get vaccinated. Those 60 have their immunity, right? You give them their measles back. One little child comes from America where they don't vaccinate very many people, and she come and she spend time with her aunt in the country, and a lot of the kids don't have vaccination, right? Somebody's going to take it. And measles is very, 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 very contagious. Okay? Very, very, very contagious. It spreads very quickly, right? However, the 40% of children at risk, right? You have 40 children out of these 100 children who are not covered. If, however, you have 95 children who are covered and 5 children who are not covered, right? Those 5 children are more likely to be protected, because finding them is harder than finding, you understand? Finding the person who's not covered, coming in contact with somebody who's not covered is less possible than coming in contact with somebody who's covered. So herd immunity means that you have a whole lot of people who have immunity to diseases. So the chances of reaching somebody who's not covered is much less. And we always have people who can't do stuff enough. So like there are children who can't take measles and stuff, right? Who can't take. And that is why it's important that the rest of us take it. And we talk about, nothing has happened. We had an outbreak of measles in Afghanistan. There's some places in Nigeria. And it's because of religious beliefs that they think that the children mustn't get it and all the other things, okay? And all the mistrust. I don't see any true reason here for us to mistrust the government, because we have not seen any outbreak of disease or any major problems as a result of having had a successful vaccination program. People have said all kinds of things. What we know is that people who are dying from coronavirus today have not been vaccinated. What we also know is that people who have taken the virus, there are people who have died. They have been identified, but it's a very small, and it cannot be compared to the people who have died as a result of coronavirus. Okay? It cannot be compared to the people who have died of coronavirus.
Doc, a quick, I think it's important to take this one. Someone says, good night, Godfrey and Doc. I'm allergic to NSAID. Can I take the vaccine, and how do I know I'll be safe?
So, if you're allergic to NSAIDs, what are we using again?
AstraZeneca, yeah.
AstraZeneca was developed at Oxford University in the UK. AstraZeneca is supposed to be safe for most of the people, right? And then people who are allergic to other things who have taken it. I cannot guarantee, I can't say, no, nothing's going to happen to you, right? But researchers have said, for the most part, almost everybody can't take the vaccine. There are people who cannot take vaccines because they have immune compromise and all the rest of it. But they have said that for the most part, most people, and the way the vaccine works. And people talk about how the vaccine has been developed, long they're doing those kind of research. What they do is you have research methods going on, and then when you have a need, you implement, you use it, you put it into practice to deal with the situation that you have at hand. Okay? So again, people do not fear. Fear of the unknown might cause us to die. Fear of the unknown might cause us to die. And what we've seen, I can tell them, 600,000 people plus died in the US. Everybody here would have dead 6 times already.
Let's go back to the telephone again quickly. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, caller.
A question, Doc. In terms of the science, I do follow the science, but you mentioned herd immunity, which is a very essential aspect to selling this idea of getting the vaccine or being vaccinated. So we need to look at, in the population of Grenada, where the number of persons have been vaccinated. So then you can have a pretty good idea as to whether that village has achieved herd immunity or this village has achieved herd immunity. So I'm not sure if you can look at it from that standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
Do we want to take the chance to develop natural immunity? Because we can't guarantee that people are going to die or they're going to live. We don't know how people respond to the virus, okay? So I think it's unethical to say let's just do natural immunity, because I know the Swedes did it, but they lost a lot of people, okay? It's also shown that the vaccine is superior to the natural immunity that you develop. The immunity you get from the vaccine is superior, the coverage. That's one of the things that I read 2 days ago, that the coverage from the natural immunity means that you've had a disease and you develop immunity antibodies, so you have that level of immunity. So they have shown that that natural immunity, that immunity from the vaccines is superior to the immunity you get from your vaccines. Okay.
All right. Well, Doc, that's all the time we have for this evening. I think a lot of people are now more informed as it relates to adolescents' health, because I think many of us believe, during that period we're almost superhuman beings and we can do anything, go anywhere, take the risk, and we'll probably be safe. But there are complications, and it's a period where if the right things are done, then you possibly may move to be a superhuman adult.
So one quick point about adolescent health. So we don't really have an adolescent health problem, right? And I'm going to ask parents to make sure that your children see a doctor before he goes back to school. I know we've had a school health program, and I don't know if that went last year because of coronavirus. Our children didn't really start school until mid-October last year. That's probably like 6 weeks going on of school, so before we really got to work, because we had outbreaks and stuff. So I'm going to ask parents, take a child to the adolescent and doctor. There are lots of things that need to be looked at. Make sure that they can see. Make sure their teeth in good condition. Yeah. Make sure they're within their weight. Make sure they're not anemic. Treat them for worms. We still have a lot of worms and those kind of stuff going around. Make sure your child is in ideal health. Is your daughter having period cramp? This is a good time for her to go to the doctor and make sure that when school starts back, right? Remember, your child needs to see the doctor at least once a year. And of course, let's remember to look out for the mental health. It's so very important because we pass it and then we miss our children's break at severe mental illness, and then they lose the rest of their life. Because apart from the stigma that is attached to mental health is so bad, right? That when your child has a break, which he probably can recuperate, he's left out there because people are ashamed and embarrassed and all the rest. But I'm going to ask parents, take a child to the doctor for a visit. Go check. Hear what the child has to say. Hear what they want. I mean, there are issues like contraception that we have not spoken here. Those are issues that we have to address with their children, right? And with their boys, because boys get girls pregnant, believe it or not. Girls don't pregnant themselves. Girls lose more opportunities. Boys don't get sent home. They could keep on going to school if their girlfriend gets pregnant. So we need to talk about sex education with our boys in particular, okay, and their responsibilities once they have fathered a child.
Yes, yes, indeed. And it's something we need to address probably very, very soon. Doc, I thank you again so very much, for being here and sharing so much information with us, helping to raise the awareness, as it relates to things that are very important to us. Things that sometimes we just overlook and don't think it is serious, but they really are if we just sit and think about them critically. So thank you very much. Thank you, folks, for staying with us. Of course, we look forward to being with you next Tuesday again for another Doctor and Call. I just want to remind you.
People can send you questions. I mean, I'm willing to answer questions. And I really want, if people have challenges and they're concerned about the vaccine, I'm willing to talk to them.
Yeah. So, folks, you can find Dr. Nixon. She's at the Bruce Street Mall. So you can visit her there. You can talk to her. You heard she said that she have a little group of Form 1s who would usually visit and chat with her.
Boys.
Visit the doctor. Boys, visit the doctor. She's at the Bruce Street Mall. Go give her a visit. Chat with her. And believe you will be doing yourself a really, really, really great service. So do that, all right? So thank you once again. Just to remind you, tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, join us for part 2 of our agricultural forum themed Taking Agriculture Forward. It's very important that you be part of that conversation tomorrow evening. Last week we had the presentations, and tomorrow evening we go into the conversations to delve deeper into some of the issues that can help us to take agriculture forward. Also, this Friday, We Culture is celebrating its first anniversary, 1 year. So we're going to have a really exciting program. We're looking forward to seeing you then. All right. So until tomorrow, please God, enjoy the rest of the evening. Doc, thank you once again. I'm going home. Yes, indeed.
There's so many questions and answers.
Yes, indeed there are.
Buddy.